A little louder, but it's okay. Good afternoon. Thank you all for coming to meeting number 5 of the Emergency Medical Services Task Force. This has been a good journey with a lot of input and thoughts on how we can shape our emergency transport services in order to serve the citizens of the Commonwealth. So I do appreciate everybody's participation, your thoughts, and what how things are progressing. So with that, and I'll come back to me in a second, but go ahead and call the roll.
Senator Douglas.
Here.
Senator Storm. Senator Webb. Representative Hart.
Here.
Representative Meredith. Representative Wilner. Co-Chair Givens.
Here.
Co-Chair Fleming.
Here. Get out of the way. Yeah, get out of the way. Okay, I'd like to take a motion for the approval of the October minutes.
So moved.
Is there a second? And we have a second? And they are approved. Okay, let me just go ahead and just give you a brief description of how things will proceed today, and then I'll have my co-chair David Givens to make some comments as well, and then we'll proceed and go from there. So first of all, to the committee members, I want to make sure in your packets is a draft of the task force findings and recommendations. In addition to that, that was put out and given to the stakeholders in order to get y'all's inputs and thought and so forth. So we want to, Senator Givens and I want to make sure we're transparent and making sure that y'all have enough time to go through and review it for your input and thoughts on that. So that's in their committee members of the list of the recommendations. In addition to that, Representative Meredith and Hart has responded to some of their thoughts and opinions, and I do appreciate their input, which is very, very thoughtful in what they're doing. In addition to that, we also have the Kentucky Association of Healthcare Facilities put forth their response and their input with that. So I do appreciate them doing that. And I've gotten some phone calls from y'all, some of y'all individually on your initial thoughts and so forth. So thank you very much for contacting me. And I believe even the Senator Givens has received some comments from their stakeholders as well. I wanted to talk about how we're going to proceed. What we like to do in talking to my co-chair, we're going to go through and we're going to go through the findings and the recommendations, and not in detail, but very, very, very general. And have a little discussion among the committee members, and then what we like to do is do a recess, so we can sit down and talk with the stakeholders to get your thoughts and opinions on these recommendations and findings, and then basically go from there. So that's what we're thinking about doing. We do have a hard stop at 5 o'clock. So with that, I'll ask Senator Givens to make any opening comments before we go into our agenda.
Co-Chair Fleming, I think you've done a great job previewing for all in the audience and all of the stakeholders. I'd like to start by saying thanks to everyone that's been engaged and involved in these discussions. We've had some robust input. The folks that are up here, thank you for your hard work as delegates to this task force. Particularly thank you for those of you in the audience. And I shared with some colleagues, one of the highlights for me has been to see people gather in a room and talk amongst themselves that really probably should have been gathering in a room doing this a year or two years ago, because we discover we all have a lot of common goals. And so I'm excited about us reaching the moment where we're going to do a recess here very, very soon, not reconfigure the room, but move it more down into a facilitated conversation. We have a hard stop at 5, as he indicated, and my goal is at 5 o'clock for us to have finished something that staff, who has so very ably put this draft together, can then say this is the final work product. Again, I'd love to see us at 5 o'clock all walk out of the room with a work product that we feel like reflects the recommendations of this task force. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Senator Givens. So just to recap very briefly, the initial charge of this committee was to go through and evaluate the services. And what we came up with was basically 5 areas, and that is a workforce recruitment, retention, and training. 2 is behavioral health care. 3, reimbursement. 4 is inter-facility transportation. And then 5 is certificate of need. And I believe we have covered those issues maybe not to a level in some categories, but I think we had definitely touched on and approached and discussed those particular 5 areas and so forth. So I would like to draw your attention to the findings and recommendations. There are, like, in the workforce and recruitment, we've got basically 5 areas. We've got collaborative approach. We have financial incentives. We have K-beams issues. For behavioral health, we have 3 or 4 items. Reimbursement, we've got about 3 items to look at. Interfacility has one particular item, and then certificate of need, we're basically come up with 3 particular items. So, like I said, I draw your attention to those. I hope you've had enough time to review that and so forth. So, with that, Senator Givens, I'd like to go ahead and if there's not any comments or questions from the committee members, which I'd be more than happy to entertain right now, we can go into a recess, and then we can talk with the stakeholders to go over these recommendations and findings.
Sounds good.
Okay. I'd like to go ahead and we'll go into recess.